Hello, and welcome to episode number 9 of the Marriage Coach Podcast, where we are here to help you take your relationship from surviving to thriving. Also, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and to turn on your notifications so that you will be notified each week when we upload. If you like this podcast, we're asking that you give us a big thumbs up on YouTube and that you would also rate this podcast on iTunes to help us get the word out. Today on the Marriage Coach Podcast, we will be joined by Jamila S. Maxey.
Yes.
We had an awesome discussion on living single. We're inviting all of our singles to listen in today for some great information and a very candid conversation.
Yeah. So here it is, interview with Jamila S. Maxey. Ready to be a wife? Why or why not?
That is an excellent question. The most advice that I've heard about the timing of marriage is that you're ready to be married when you don't need to be married. One of the things is that my approach to marriage is just like my approach to a lot of things in my life. I have studied marriage. I've went and been mentored and sat under married couples. I listen to wives. I have, some of my married friends who have, decent marriages, who speak into my life, and I learn from their good and their bad. Like I have one friend, she's been married 26 years. And so I literally sit at her feet and listen to her sometimes. And we do have those conversations. Like one of the conversations we had recently was about me, making sure my relationship with my mom was whole and healthy, because I told her, I said, I didn't want to take that into my marriage, because I think we think we can compartmentalize all the different relationships in our lives. And It's like, no. So I'm really struggling to answer that question, because the knee-jerk reaction is, on a surface level, I would tell you, yes, I think I'm ready to be married, but how can you prepare for what you hadn't experienced? I hadn't experienced a marriage, so I really can't tell you if I'm 100% ready or not. But what I can tell you is that when I really think about a kingdom marriage, and that's the thing that I will give up my single card for. Anything less, I'm keeping my single card, because I have a great single life.
Right.
But it makes me nervous. I know my husband, I know God has already told me certain things about my husband, and I won't, share them here in a public, space.
Absolutely.
But there's certain
You'll
things.
have all kind of people call him pretend to be him. Yeah, don't
the
do
counterfeits,
that.
the counterfeits. But it makes me nervous to think about, like, I know the purpose and the mission and the things he's supposed to accomplish. I'm nervous about, I've lived, by myself as an adult for all of my adult years. So even just, it makes me nervous to think about, I have to let someone in my space and live with him. I'm introverted. At the end of the day, I think about that. It's like, oh, he's going to live here with me, huh? He's going to come to work. Because I'm that person, be like, oh, you do live here. Okay, come on in. I'm so used to being by myself. It's a major adjustment. But one of the things I feel it in my DNA and I feel it in my soul is that he is a person that I'll be willing to collaborate with. Because one of the things I don't believe in, and I get a lot of pushback when I say this, I don't really believe in compromise. Compromise is win-loss. So one of the things, I took a whole course on negotiation. And and that's what made me really get some perspective into this. So when you compromise, somebody is feeling like they're losing. And that's never losing is associated with negative emotions. It has a negative connotation. Right. But when you talk about collaborate, it's a win-win. But, people are like, well, you always can't collaborate and everything else. And the reason why people have such a harsh reaction to that is because collaboration takes more time. It takes more energy. You have to invest more. It's not just, okay, what you gonna give up? It's really hashing it out and going to a deeper level, and really, making a contract and a compact. Whereas compromise is like, well, you just give this up. Okay, yeah, let's go on. You lost that one. Well, I'm gonna lose something later on. No, collaboration looks very different, and that's why I'm more geared towards collaboration when it comes about relationship, because okay, I'm competitive. I don't like losing.
You actually said that, and I actually thought about it because I'm looking at my marriage. Like I said, Sean and I, and what's so weird about it, I just think you just really, just laid out the of compromise and collaboration. And I'm thinking, I'm like, my wife and I, we do a lot of collaboration. And the crazy thing about it, we do a lot of collaboration, but we call it compromise. But
Mm,
I'm just thought about it, it's really not compromise what we've been doing. We really
yeah,
have been collaborating and not
yeah.
compromising.
And when you collaborate, usually you have to talk more. You have to
Yeah,
know the other party
yeah,
more. You have to be invested in the other party's
yeah,
interests. And usually in a collaboration, you're willing to put the other person's or the other party interests
right,
for your own.
yeah,
And see, compromise is not that. It's like you still trying to hold on to as much as you can have. And
yeah,
how does that look in a marriage? That's, to me, that's a sign of you going towards more unhealthy,
yeah,
or in a relationship. It's like, man,
yeah,
and think about this. We have to compromise sometimes on our jobs. We don't, or in our functions. It's like we're going through so much stuff outside of our house home that when it comes to, and this is my personal belief, is that when it comes to a marriage, it should be a sanctuary. It should be a haven,
yeah,
because there's so much stuff that we go through, whether it's aging parents or job changes, downsizing, a pandemic.
yeah,
One of the things we joked about with one of my friends this weekend is the amount of divorces that are probably going to happen after this pandemic is over, because
yeah,
you got a chance to really know somebody. But
yeah,
really collaborating, that person, and you esteem that person, and you value that person. So you're willing to spend more time because you value them. And so that's my approach to it. So I don't know. We'll see. Am I ready? Who knows? God knows. But in God's perfect timing, we'll know. But until that time, I'm going to continue on the journey of bettering myself, because it says, how can you make a better union? You bring a better you to the union. And so
yeah.
instead of lamenting during my single years that I'm single, woe is me. Do I want to be courted? Yes. Do I want wine and dine, all that other jazz? Of course, I'm a full-blooded woman. But I want to make the most of this time. I know that my singleness is for a purpose. I mean, I'm very fortunate to know that God has told me that one day he just out of the blue started speaking to me, not out of the blue speaking to me, but he about marriage.
Right.
And he said, you want to know why you're single? And yeah, I ain't trying to dug God, but it was almost like, well, yeah, dug God. And he said it. He said, because there are some things in your life that if you were married, you would not do. And I was like, I can 100% agree with you, God,
Wow.
that, yeah, there are some things. And I think part of it is this process that I'm in now. Like, I don't know if I could be able to, that's hard to negotiate. Some people do it. I don't know if I could negotiate having a family and being in this intense study process. So I think this is one of the things that I probably would have been like, I don't need that. I don't need that. But this degree, I mean, I'm not doing all of this so that I can be called Dr. Jamila. It goes so much deeper. Getting this degree is part of my purpose. I needed to, not that I had to, but I needed to, because I live a purpose driven and a purpose filled life. So it's knowing that, it goes back to knowing your why. So on the days to where, sometimes it gets to me sometimes about, oh Lord, when is it going to be? I can say, well, have you completed the things that he needed you to do in your singleness?
Right.
It's like, well, I don't know, maybe not. So let me keep on. So it's knowing your season, because when you rush a season, is what happens if we skip spring? The rest of the season, the harvest is not
Something's
right.
not gonna be right. Yeah.
And what we have is so many people trying to skip singleness and go to marriage. And number one, they don't even fully realize what marriage is. Two, there's a beautiful value to singleness, that if you miss it, I think it undercuts you in your marriage season. I feel like you're not fully developed in your marriage season, because I truly believe there are some things in my marriage that I will not have to experience because I've taken the time to work some of that out now as a single person. I'm in a relationship with myself. I'm in a relationship with God. I'm in a relationship with a lot of people. It's not a romantic relationship. So it's like, but it's a relationship. So when you scale everything back and you look at marriage as a relationship, it's a different type of relationship. But at the end of the day, it's a relationship. So if I can, figure out some of this stuff while I'm single, it's less stuff that I have to figure out in marriage. So.
Wow. I gotta I like how, I mean, you started off, you said when you need to be married. And that's so true. When you need to be married is probably when you shouldn't get married. You should get married when you don't need to be married because you're old enough. And if you're old enough and your spouse is old enough, going into a marriage together whole, oh my God, that is
Come on now.
powerful. That is that's a force to be reckoned with. Because what tend to happen is you have a broken woman marry a broken man, and you go into the marriage, and now two broken people have a seed, and now they producing broke. Oh my goodness, they producing brokenness. So
Brokenness.
it's like the baby's coming out broken. I mean, it's like brokenness has become ordinary. It's like it's the way to go. This is how life's supposed to work. And so now you got a whole family that should be kingdom is broken.
I'm gonna give you a really good example, because if you feel like you need to be married, there's some type of need you're trying to get met. And
Yeah.
so you become need based. And it's a very dangerous thing when you allow someone to become the supplier of your needs, in a sense.
Oh.
And I'm gonna use I didn't get into it, but it's been a lot over popular press. The whole Jada and Will, the entanglement, and she's like, I didn't feel happy. So, but why is he responsible for your happiness? Why is this relationship responsible for your
It's
happiness?
true.
I'm gonna give a shout out to my mom. One of the things that, when my stepfather passed, and it was a really tough time for her because they just had this soulmate type love. But she said something like a year or two before it happened, because she was like, if something happens to him, I still have to be okay. And I cataloged that in my mind, and I'm like, wow, that's powerful. And not that she ever wanted something to happen to him, but if it did, she was going to eventually be okay. And I thought about that. Growing up, my biggest fear was that, oh, my husband is going to divorce me. But I'm like, what if he died? Or what if he was incapacitated?
Yeah.
Am I still going to be okay? And it's like, wow, so I think that's so important to not be so need driven when it comes to our relationship. So that, like you said, I don't go in being broken. The thing, and I'm telling you, it's like nails on a chalkboard when I hear in somebody's marriage vows, and more power to them, but he completes me. Because one of the things I so don't buy into that logic, because like right now, I've been single all of my adult life. So what that tells me is that I can't be complete until I meet this person.
Wow.
Like, no, I'll tell you, one of the most you feel the time I felt the most single, I was age 27 and I bought my house. I bought my first house. When I tell you, I was like, wow, this system is set up for married people. Because everywhere I would go, they were like, oh, so is your husband gonna put his name on it? Like, what husband? I'm buying this house. Like, it was asinine. Even at the closing, they were like, is your husband gonna be joining us? If you know who he is, you tell him I've been looking for his. But so it's like, but you do have that. Like, it was just like they had never seen a single person purchase a house before. But I think we do live in a coupled society to where if you don't couple, they look at something's wrong. But it's like, no, nothing's wrong. I'm willing, to wait for the right relationship. But it's like, and I don't want to be need driven. I was never that person. I didn't want to be, I'm gonna buy my house when my husband come, or I'm gonna go on vacation when my husband come, or because I'm like, who knows when he might show up? And fortunately for me, it's been 20 plus years. So, but I hadn't delayed those experiences. I've had different experiences, and I think that's the value in my single life and why I still enjoy life. Because if we strip the adjective away, it is life.
Yeah.
So whether it's married life or single life, take the adjective away, it is life.
Yeah.
And you have to say, how do I want my life to look? What is the reflection of my life? Because what if I get married and Jesus come back? And I'll be like, Jesus, it's only been 6 months. So that means that I could be complete, but for 6 months, I couldn't be
Right.
happy for 6 months.
Yeah.
I'm
That is
gonna be
awesome.
raptured out of here, just FYI.
To do devotionals. What does the Bible say about marriage? What does marriage look like? What is my role as a wife? What's your role as a husband? There was no, I mean, we didn't have people to tell us that. So you meet somebody, you fall in love, or you have this infatuation. It's like, okay, let's just get married. And for us, I always say that it was God divine because it worked out perfectly. And we literally grew up together. But for other people, I think that's why they experience a lot of the other things that we haven't experienced because they don't have those tools. And now in this world of information where we can give you the tools online, then let's help people. Before you get married, start preparing yourself for marriage.
Why make mistakes when you don't have to? Like,
Absolutely.
there are tools available, there are people available. Learn from their lived experiences. I think that's the best sometimes, because I can read it in the book, but when you tell me XYZ and you put it in a context, that's so powerful. It's also funny because on the Bible app, you'll see for a while I was doing a lot of marriage devotionals. I'm like, I know people, my friends on my Bible app probably think, did she go
You
get
didn't
married? But
Yeah.
you're right. We prepare for a lot of other things. Why won't we prepare for marriage?
Absolutely.
But it's almost, I don't know. I grew up Baptist, and one of the things, and it was erroneous. It's not all Baptist, but they were like, don't read the book of Revelations. I don't know why, but that's something. And I don't know if that was just a myth that the little kids said we just perpetrated. But it was like, don't read the book of Revelations. But the book of Revelations is about what's going to happen in the future. So it's the same thing with marriage. You have all these tools out here, but as a single person, it's like, well, don't you go read nothing about marriage. But
Yeah.
why, if that's going to be your future, you want to be in the know. You want to understand it and get some context for it.
That
It's
is
like,
so
what's
true.
Right. When we travel to Hawaii, what is Honolulu like? I don't want to go there and don't know anything about it, so you want to know. For those that like to be prepared, it's the same thing for marriage. Some people may be okay with just jumping in, both feet in, and however it go, it go. If this one don't work, I'll start another one. Maybe some people, but there are other people that really want the till death do us part. And if
Yeah.
you want the till death do us part, then let's use the tools. Let's use all the information, all the content, everything. Even, one of the things I was even talking about, for upcoming, even, and you and I talked about this, even talking to divorced people. And somebody that has experienced a divorce can tell you, not necessarily like, bashing the other person, but where they went wrong themselves. What could they have done differently, or what just did not work, or whatever. And just sharing those things can also help you begin to see things before they get to that point, and give you the tools to say, okay, this is what I don't want. If I don't want my marriage to end in divorce, then what do I need to do differently? And for us, that was some of the things we talked about in the beginning, because his parents were married, till they both passed away. But my parents have been married multiple times. And for me, I didn't want that. I wanted the whole till death do us part, the whole happily ever after. And it doesn't say anything about my parents. That's just the way life or the relationship happened for them. And I wanted something different. So I realized that my response and the things I did had to be different.
I mean, but even you, I mean, we had a conversation where, you as back when you were single, you had a perspective where marriage is something you didn't even want because
In the
of
beginning, yeah, because of the same thing, because of the the majority of the people that I knew that were married before, they like married and divorced. It's like, why you want to do that? Why would you want to get married and think you're gonna spend the rest of your life with somebody and have kids, and then it just all ends? And honestly and truthfully, there was there was no honesty sitting down what went wrong. It was more or less like, oh, men are horrible, or women don't do that, they change when you get married. And so it's like, why you want that? I don't even want that. So until a certain point, yeah, I didn't even want that. But once I did think about marriage, it was like, I don't want this to happen.
Yeah.
That's it. And you know, and I think what you just articulated is so true in that you do have a lot of people based upon what they see growing up. It's like, well, if that's marriage, I don't want no parts of that.
Right.
But then like there's a progression to where when you're around it and you start to see healthy marriages and you get to see that marriages are not bad. I just don't want that type of marriage. Like I want a car, but I don't want that jalopy over there. I want a nice running car over here, a properly functioning car. But you said something, you know, and I'm gonna give you this analogy. Even from what we do, it's like you practice, you practice, you practice. So if I'm not practicing seeking out tools and advice and things as a single person as it relates to whatever I'm going through or even marriage, that means that when I start to encounter obstacles or come to some issues in a marriage, I'm not going to know how to seek out things. But now, like this podcast is a great tool, not just for single people, but for marriage people. So it's like, okay, this is one of the resources that I have. Like, would you want to go to a nurse or a doctor who got their degree and got that initial training and never went back for a refresher? You know, you know, I know some nurses that have 40-year career. Like medicine has changed so much in the last, you know, 5 years, let alone 40 years. So what if you were still treating me the way that you were trained back in 1979? I wouldn't want to see you. It's the same thing. So if I'm not, but I always say this, if you're not growing and if there's not an exchange, it's dead. You know, think about the Dead Sea. One of the reasons why they consider it the Dead Sea, because it goes, water flows in, but there's no outlet of it. So it's dead. So it's not exchanged. So if I'm not exchanging some information and my lived experience with the information and the tools and quality information and quality tools out there, I am not going to grow. And if you're not growing, it's dead. It's stagnant. Die. So relationships die when there's no growth. But if you don't have a practice and a habit of seeking things out to better yourself, and I think singleness is a perfect time to practice that, then what are you going to do when you get married?
Yep. And that's the hope. That's the prayer. And that is the desire and the purpose, just to make relationships different so that so that we're more selective, more wise, and we have the tools, even once we are in a relationship, for that conflict to never get resolved, because I'm only one person and I can only control what I do and what I learn. And for us, I think that the best thing that has ever happened is we always learn together. Like he reads the book and he's like, oh, babe, this is a great book. You need to read it. Or he shoots me a podcast through a text message and I listen and we read books together. We discuss them. And I think that has been so beneficial to us, because what it does is it keeps you on the same page. And when it's not like doors are unlocking in his mind and they're still locked in mine. When we're hearing the same information and then we discuss that information, the same doors that unlock for him, unlock for me. The same wisdom that he gains, I gain. And it in the beginning, we had no knowledge of that's how well that will work. But now that we've done it so much with so different things, it's like, okay, this is what we need to do. We got to continue to grow together. We grow on our own, but we continue to grow together as well, because that's what makes us work the way we do. That's how we grow in ministry. That's how we grow in business. That's how we grow in corporate, everything. And we were recently even sharing with a couple how something that I started to do in ministry flowed over to corporate for me. And it helped me to be able to do things that I would have never saw myself doing. And so every part of our lives works together. And so we have to have the tools to unlock those parts together, because you're two people coming together to create one life.
That's true. And you bring in your different backgrounds. And I think that's what is so beautiful about being single, is that, like how you were saying, that, you know, having those crucial conversations and having those conflicts, but if as a single person, I have that time to be really self-aware and really get to delve into how I handle conflict. Like that's something that now I can tell somebody, that, I'm dating. This is how I handle conflict. Like if you allow me, I'm introverted. If you get mad and go away and you don't come back and or you don't tell me how long you're going to be away, when you come back, I'm going to already have that conversation in my head and I'm going to supply all the answers and I ain't going to want to talk to you because I'm have all the answers because I've answered every question that I had. I was going to ask you, but you want to hear and I know when you're coming back, so I answered for you. That's how. So in conflict, it's like if you need your space, I can allow that, but tell me you need space. And if that time is up, come back and say, I need additional space. Because if not, I'm going to internalize everything. And then when you come back, I'm going to be shut down and I'm going to be moved on and it's going to be ugly. So, but I've been able to explore that as a single person. So now in the confines of a marriage, I can say, now, sweetie, honey, pie, boo.
Yes.
Yes. For us to work through this problem, this is how, approach conflict. How do you approach conflict? And then that way we can, okay, so if you don't like space, okay, cool. Let me keep that in mind. So if I get, upset, not to walk away immediately, or there's something I need to do in the meantime. But I think a lot of times is that we get into relationships, but we can't really articulate who we are and how that fits into that relationships. And I think that's when problems come in. And you said something, and I love listening to Dr. Miles Monroe. He was a phenomenal teacher, and his teachings were just so easy. He said the number one cause for divorce is marriage. And I'm like, that's true. And when I look at, different people and some of my friends who've gone through the divorce process, I think it goes back to the step that I am. It's the selection. The selection was off. We used the wrong criteria or the wrong measurement, or we thought wrong, or we had the wrong idea of what we thought marriage was, or we went into marriage with these needs, thinking these needs were going to be met. But like, you shouldn't be need based. Like you shouldn't get into a relationship based upon needs. That's the wrong reason to get married, is because you think this need is going to be met. Because what happens is the first time someone doesn't meet that need, then there's a super conflict, and then you're disappointed, depressed, or you look for an out. So it's like we were talking earlier about self-awareness, and I think that's where self-awareness come in, because what I hear when you talk about you growing as a couple, it's like you become self-aware and then y'all become couple aware.
Wow.
Today, couple awareness, couple aware. But I think it goes back because you're still an individual, but you're one, and that's a hard concept for my human mind to wrap around sometimes. Because it's like, how do the two become one? Like that's reverse math. No. But and I think for a lot of single women, especially women who have been really independent, sometimes that can be scary because it's like, I don't want to lose my identity. I don't want to lose my sense of self. But what I hear is that you really don't have to, but it's a joining together. It's a growing together of that. I can breathe a sigh of relief.
Yeah. And I do believe, I agree with you wholeheartedly. I think that for a lot of people, especially the independent women and those that are, it's like, okay, if I meet the right person, if he comes along, fine. If not, I'm good by myself. That could, for women, period, in the time that we live in, that could be like I don't want that because I've got to give up all of who I am. And that's not true, because like you just said, you're one as far as a unit, but you're still two individuals. And I'm still me. I still like the things that I like. I still express myself the way I express myself. He's still him. He still express himself the way he expressed himself.
I still like golf.
Exactly. And I don't like golf. I'm not an outdoor person. I just want to decorate the patio and be cute. I don't want to sit out there. He wants to sit out there. But even in that, I do that sometimes because that's what he likes to do. But that doesn't mean that I have to lose myself and what I am. And I think that it's important for people to know that.
If you don't know who you are, how do you expect somebody else to know who you are?
Yeah.
If you don't know, I think that's a big problem, because most of the time we don't even know who we are. We don't know what we want. And then we get upset because the person
Because they can't figure it out.
They can't figure it out. And it's like, what do you want? I
Mhm.
don't know. I don't even know who I am. And if you don't know who you are, you get lost in who they are.
Mhm.
And it's so, I think that happens more than not. And
Mhm.
it's sad to say, but some people, a lot of people, huge, I believe that's why the divorce rate is as high as it is, because we get lost in who they are instead
Mhm.
of who we are. I mean, just imagine, Jamila, just imagine you not knowing who you are, and you get with somebody and now you lost in who they are. They may be happy, but you're not going to be. You're
Right.
not gonna be, because this is totally. I mean, you're an eagle, and you married to a tiger. It's like you're supposed to be flying, but you can't. He can't
Stay on the
fly,
ground.
and so you got to stay on the ground to be with him. And now you're inadequate, and you can't reach your greatest potential because you have to stay on their level. But if you're an eagle and know you're an eagle,
And
hey,
look for other
I
eagles.
need to get with an eagle. I can't marry no chicken. I mean, it's just I can't marry a chicken.
Yes,
I got to marry eagle,
absolutely.
because here you are now. You got to protect the chicken,
Mhm.
because if you bring him around the other eagles, now there's his chicken insecurity. He gonna be upset. He
They
gonna be
wings bigger
mad.
than
He gonna
mine.
be talking about, yeah. He gonna have a little
Complex, little
man
man complex.
syndrome. I mean,
Mhm.
it's gonna be like, and he ain't gonna want to go around your eagle friends because he's just a chicken. And then now he's mad at you, and instead of him embracing who you are, now he's jealous and envying you because you an eagle and he's just a chicken.
Mhm.
And so now him with his chicken little self is just sitting there upset and mad at you, and y'all can't even have a good relationship because now y'all know y'all laughing at me.
It's funny,
I,
but
know-
it sounds funny. The analogy sounds funny, but it does make
I
sense.
mean, but that's
Yeah,
what happens.
yeah,
And
because
now
now
you
your
have
insecurities kick
men,
in. Mhm.
and I think this is the big problem. For example, you said something. You said independent woman. My wife, Sean, she's very. I would consider her an independent woman that's married, and we work well together.
Mhm.
But the reason why we work well together is because she's independent and I'm independent. And we okay with being who we are. We
Exactly.
okay with being the lion and the lioness
Mhm.
instead of being the rooster and the lion. We know our place. So here we are. We get married. We able to grow together. We able to develop together,
Mhm.
and we're not secretly envying each other. And now I want to look at it like you supposed to submit to me.
Mhm.
You're supposed to be a submissive woman. Because of my insecurity, I'm upset and I can't deal with her because she's more mature than I am, or she's more developed, or she know more about leadership. I mean, that can be intimidating for a man. So that's the
Mm.
thing. If I'm that type of man where I'm not into that, I'm just a simple guy, but marry a powerful woman. I mean, everybody talking about they want a Proverbs 31
And
woman,
she
but
was
it's like,
powerful.
but the truth of the matter is like, man, can you handle that? Can you
That's
handle a Proverbs 31 woman? So being a Proverbs 31 woman, you have to know who you are and know what you're getting yourself into.
Absolutely.
This is what I want. Because if you know who you are, you know what you want.
so. One of the questions I want to ask the married couple
Okay.
that there are a lot of myths that are associated with marriage, and I think having good information and having good podcasts such as this one helps to dispel that myth. So when we go into marriage, we're not disillusioned. Because I think all single people can sue Disney, Danielle Steele, Harlequin Romance.
Hello. Every romance book, novel, and movie.
Yes, because they sold us a bill of goods that doesn't line up
That's true.
reality.
Yes.
So what is the first question is, what is one of the biggest myths as it relates to marriage? And then two, what is one of the biggest challenges, in the beginning stages of marriage? And what can we do as singles to try to help prepare or soften that challenge?
If we had to give a short thing to say what is the biggest myth, I would say the words the perfect love story.
Wow.
Because there is no perfect love story.
No.
We can have a great love story. We can have a love story that's a work in progress because like he said, you're working on you, I'm working on me, and we can be the best versions of ourselves when we meet. But I think the perfect love story.
And when you think of, you go into it with the mindset of perfect, That means it don't need any
No
work.
work.
That
No work.
means
Perfection.
so you basically that to answer your second question, here's the challenge is people going into the relationship with the mindset of not working on to make the relationship better than what it is. You know, so you have to get that whole perfect thing, that whole Hollywood
The love
thing out
story,
of your
yeah.
mind. You have to get it out of your mind because relationships takes work. I mean, Shantae and I, we have an awesome marriage, awesome marriage. But this the thing, it took work and it's still
Exactly.
taking work.
Still,
The
yes.
tools that we share on the Marriage Coach podcast is tools. I'm not telling listen, tools we still haven't mastered yet.
Right, right.
We have the
Still working
tools.
them.
And because we have these tools, we know what to pull out the toolbox at the right time. The only thing, and that helps make us self-aware of how we should deal with things because we have the tools. And the only thing we're doing is sharing tools that's working for us, that's helping us on our journey, taking our marriages from surviving to thriving. Those are just some tools that we're sharing with singles, sharing with married couples, singles of what not to do, the mistakes not to make. Because that's marriage is overcome from getting into eagle marrying a buzzard, but at the end of the day he's a buzzard. Or let's switch. I don't want it sound like male bashing. She's the buzzard and he's the eagle. So here's the thing, you can never, I don't care how hard you try, you can never make a buzzard an eagle. Let me do this before we log off. Before we log off, I wanna ask this question. We're gonna talk about it because this is the thing. You have somebody that maybe they're listening to this podcast for the first time, and secretly they will never say it, and I hope you don't. But maybe you are an eagle, and maybe you are the one that married a buzzard, and you would never say it because you don't want to hurt the buzzard feeling. And I get it. I mean, you love them. You guys in love. I mean, this is where you are. What kind of advice would you give to the individual, moving forward from here?
Well, can I say something?
Yes.
Go ahead.
One of the things I didn't want to miss of the moment in that when y'all were talking is the affirmation of who you are. And I think that's part of the answer to the question you just asked. If you're an eagle, relish that, cherish that. You can't change who you are in that sense because that goes to the core of who you are, your purpose, and your why. It is what it is, and I have a part that I added to that. It ain't what it ain't, but in that moment it was so reaffirming because so many times the independent woman is bashed or the this type man is bashed and or the strong black woman is bashed.
Right.
But it was so reaffirming, and I think to start off, to jumpstart that question, is if you're in a relationship and you feel like you're opposite of your mate, the thing is one of the fallacies would be to try to become a buzzard when your DNA is not encoded. You have to reaffirm who you are. If you're that buzzard, be proud, be that buzzard, because you were designed with a purpose. But the tough part, which I'm gonna let y'all answer, is the navigation of that. So once I reaffirm and like, okay, I'm an eagle. I can't change who I am. I am what I am. I'm an eagle. So what now? So once you reaffirm that, then that's when, I think the really challenging question really starts to come in.
And I believe it will, if you are an eagle and you are already, in a marital relationship with a buzzard, it's going to be challenges because just like you said, it's who you are, it's your DNA. A eagle naturally does certain things. A buzzard naturally does certain things. And if you've already crossed that threshold and you're married to them, then the thing I say is that you'll have to be comfortable being you, and you'll have to, as much as possible, love them up to who they can be so that they can be the best buzzard that they can be. And this is your spouse, your significant other. You've already married them, and maybe you did not know some of the things that you know now. But I think at this point, or at that point, it's only, a choice to to love them up to be the best version of themselves. The buzzer.
Let me say this. So here you are. You have an eagle and a buzzard.
Mhm.
My thing and my thought process and moving forward with this, because here's the thing: the eagle bringing the best out of the buzzard,
Yes.
the buzzard bringing the best out of the eagle.
Yes.
So here's the thing: in order to bring the best out of something, you have to learn it.
Mm-hmm.
So the buzzard need to learn the eagle.
Mm-hmm.
The eagle need to learn the buzzard. And I guarantee you there's things that buzzards can do. There's gifts that buzzards have that eagles don't have. There's gifts that eagles don't have. So if you really think about it, in a sense, a buzzard and an eagle can work better together than two eagles. I'm going to break it down. But because here's the thing, an eagle, you have two eagles, the qualities are equal across the board.
Oh, no.
But if you have a buzzard, you have eagle qualities, you have buzzard qualities. So if we can learn each other and work together, actually the eagle and the buzzard probably can accomplish more than just the two eagles.
Mm-hmm.
Because now you have a range. You have a range of gifts versus a small selective of gifts. So that's my thought. It's just, there you go.
I can attach to that, because it brought something back in my mind. I call her my friend. I call her my favorite Christian, because she'll pray for you, but she'll tell you off too. But she said something. I was lamenting about, well, what if he's like this? I'm not a morning person. She's like, if the two of you are the same, one of you are not needed. And I was like, wow, I had never thought about it in that sense, which I don't want to have a duplicate of myself in a marriage. I mean, because it's just alike. But even when you were talking, I hear complementary,
Yeah, that's it.
A lot of times when people are saying he completes me, it's really we complement one another. And that's more ideal, because it's just like what Cedric was saying, is that when you're together, you can accomplish different, new, innovative things than if we're both the same, And I think that's a powerful reframing of it. So it's not like he's not at my level, or she's not at my level, or he doesn't do XYZ, she doesn't do XYZ, but it's a compliment. And it ties into what you were saying too, the best version of yourself. But yeah, if I have two or something, I'm not going to use the same thing at the same time. No. But if they're different, I can complement. I'm thinking about shoes right now. It's like, if I got the same pair of shoes, I'm not going to wear them at the same time. But if I can use shoes and this shirt, and I can and it complements one another, yeah, that's a whole outfit right there. So I think the central thing, it goes back to being comfortable and knowing why you exist.
That's the key.
Yep. We hope you enjoyed this great candid conversation with our awesome, amazing guest, Miss Jamila S. Maxey today.
Awesome.
And we want to invite you to hit that subscribe button. If you enjoyed the content that you heard on today, we have a lot more in store for you. So we invite you to subscribe, to like, to comment, to share, to give us a great big thumbs up. Also, we want to invite you, if you're listening on iTunes, to rate this podcast.
It helps us get the word out.
Please check out our Lead to Greatness podcast as well. It is a great podcast on YouTube and iTunes, and we're interviewing and discussing leadership, entrepreneurship, and careers with great leaders from all over the world.
Yes. So thank you for joining us on today. We're looking forward to seeing you again on next week as we continue to help take your marriage from surviving to thriving. Bye. See you next week.